I am a thorough believer that mods are one of the best things that have ever happened in the software creation industry. And oh my god, I'm so excited because yes, you read it right. Dungeondraft 1.1 Newborn Phoenix beta has released about 25 days ago, and it includes mod support, which means that something is going to happen that I've been hoping for quite a while now. Modding has come to Dungeondraft. Hello and welcome everyone, my name is Fake Fairytale, and today I would like to dive in something new, a new topic, something that we haven't discussed on the channel, but it's something that big that I would want to cover this more extensively in the future as well. And that is modding for Dungeondraft. It's released in the latest patch of Dungeondraft, which released about 25 days ago. I have only been able to cover it now because I have been quite busy and there were some other things on the schedule as well. But here we are, and I still noticed a lot of people actually missing the fact that this has been a feature. So I think it's good to just dive into this. I'll show you guys what kind of mods are currently available, how to install them, and how that looks when you're logged into Dungeondraft and you're working on your maps. And then in the future, we'd definitely like to maybe cover a few mods here and there, especially the big ones. And at some point, it would be great if we could make one ourselves, of course, but that's something for the far future. So the 1.1 patch notes were rather short. There's not that much features added outside of the mod support. It's also mentioned to be a beta, so don't expect this to be flawless, running without any glitches or anything. It still is a work in progress, but actually so far it seems to be working quite alright, and with the first mods out there, they're learning a lot, and they're also setting up a wiki for it. I don't want to go into the technical details too much, though I'll do mention a few things here and there for the software and developers in your midst. Dungeondraft is coded in the Go engine with GZScript, so that's naturally also the script that you'll be using to create your own mods as well. And they're starting up the whole Dungeondraft wiki on modding, and they're expanding it bit by bit depending on what kind of things they encounter, and bit by bit this wiki grows to include all kind of things that you need to know in order to create your own mods. And in order to make that easier, I would like to jump onto the first mod that has been created, which is a library, which for those of you who don't know this, is a mod that makes it easier for other modders and for other programmers to connect their mods to Dungeondraft and to each other, and I think that is just a great feature to have as well. It's been designed by Creepy Cray, and it's still a work in progress as well. However, I believe it already works to some extent. However, you won't see any features of this in your map making process. This is solely made for the modders and the modding community. And then we have three example mods, you could say, that I would like to dive into. One being the rainbow objects, which is created by Nexonus, the creator of cartography assets, which allows you to randomize the colors of specific objects so that you don't have to adjust the colors yourself all the time, and was created mainly to test out the modding feature and to see how that works. I do believe there were a few things that needed to be fixed. They might have been fixed in the meanwhile. But that's the first one. Then we have the nudge mod. I'm very, very enthusiastic about this one by Jay Chunick, because this is something that I try to do all the time. It allows you to select an object and nudge it towards a specific position by using your arrow keys. And the nudge is like a few pixels. So it's very easy to overshoot when you're selecting an object and you do it with your mouse, especially if you have a very high DPI. But this makes it easier. You can adjust the nudge value to determine how much pixels you want to nudge. It also includes a super and an uber nudge value if you want to do it at bigger, larger increments. And there are some keyboard shortcuts for it as well. We'll be checking this out in Dungeondraft. And then last but not least, we have the layers panel mod, which is a mod that creates a layer panel on the right hand side of the screen. And in that layer panel, you can select objects so that they highlight on the screen as well. Makes it easier to delete them and also to dissect specific groups of assets like prefabs. So that's going to give you a significantly easier time of selecting that specific path that you want to remove without you having to move all the assets out of the way. So those are the 3 mods that are available right now. They're all for free, so I'll be linking to them in the description of this video, and do go check them out. Leave a comment on them or just test them out, try to find bugs as well, and we can help out the modders in the community to improve upon their mods, which is going to benefit us in the long haul as well. Now, for some people, modding can feel a bit daunting, but to be honest, if you're already familiar to Dungeondraft and you know how to install custom assets, this is basically the same. It's extremely easy to do. So I'll walk you through the process. I've naturally already done it on my Dungeondraft, of course, but that won't really matter for the purpose of this video. So if you open up in Dungeondraft, you will now have the mods panel on the top right if you've updated to the newborn Phoenix. And when you click that, you'll see the collection of your mods right here. Now, the first time that you open this panel, it's going to be empty and you're going to have to specify a mods folder. And the mods folder you can just browse, and it works the same way as it does for your custom assets. So I have a few Dungeondraft maps in my documents as well, and I just created a new one. So I have one for my custom assets. I actually have one for my maps as well, and I just created one Dungeondraft mods. Just make a new map in there, and then afterwards, when we're done, you can go to your downloads if you've downloaded the mods from the cartography assets page, and they'll be packed up with either WinRAR or any other software that you're using. You can unpack them here and then just drag and drop them into your Dungeondraft mods folder. So you can say extract to, after which you receive the map with the mod in there. Then we're just going to Ctrl X. We're going to cut it out here, go back to our documents and to the Dungeondraft mods map, and then we're going to paste it in here. And naturally, right now we already have a file which has the same name, so we'll remove that. And then you'll have your mods in here. And that's all you need to do. Then the next time you start up Dungeondraft, you come into the mods panel, you'll browse to your mods folder, you'll select it, and then your mods should show up right in here. All you have to do now is just click accept, and we're going to create a new map and try out a few of the features that are in here. All right, and here we are. And the first thing that I would like to tackle is the layer panel mod. On the right hand side, you already see what it looks like. And I just finished around with it a little bit to try and figure out how it works exactly. And there are a few limitations, but let's just go over and see what we can do here. And then maybe discuss how we can apply this to our own maps, how we can use this. Now, the first thing that it does, it registers everything that you place down, every asset, on a specific layer. And it also offers you a search function to search for a specific thing. For example, the rug, which is on layer 1 right now because we placed it there. And that way you can filter out. So if you generally know what you're looking for, which specific asset you're looking for, you should be able to find it in there quite all right. However, this is going to be quite something when you have a nearly finished map with a lot of assets in here. It might need some getting used to. Trying to find everything because it's going to register every single pathway as well, and that's going to be a lot, but still I think you should be able to make it work. And also what you can do is just select an object in the map if possible, and then it will highlight it in the panel on the right hand side as well. So if you have some objects related to it, they might be very close to it on the panel on the right hand side as well. Now, you can move these assets based on the layer panel over here, so you still have to do that with the bring to front and center back buttons. However, it does make it already significantly easier to select specific things, and you can see on what layer you have left everything, which can be very convenient. And you can always just also click something on the right hand side over here, then press your delete key and remove it from the map. Now, that's the first use case for this. However, we also have a different one that are the prefabs. I have placed 2 prefabs up here. These are bunk beds I've made a while back already. And the only thing I'm currently uncertain about is where, on what specific layer the prefab registers. It registers right now under the name prefab 7 and prefab 12, which is the right one over here, and you have one on the left hand side over here. However, it doesn't seem to be related to the object layer you're on. So I currently set it to 700 when I try to place the right bunk beds. However, after I placed it down, it categorized it under user layer 400. So I'm not sure how this works specifically. It might look at the assets that are in there, because a prefab saves that kind of information in the prefab itself. So we have objects that are on layer 4 right here, specifically some shadow paths. So it might be that, but I'm not entirely sure what it is, but keep that in mind. However, if you have a object like this, you can select it. And it might be very inconvenient if you have to remove a specific pathway from underneath a dagger, for example, to find and remove that, to actually select it and then delete it. I always struggle with that a lot in the map making process. And what you can do right now is let's not pick the wrong one. We're going to prefab 12, and you can just select different pathways, and you can use that to find the one that you need and then delete it. So if we want to remove the dagger, we have the sheath dagger black, we'll remove that, and we remove the dagger itself, dagger metal rusty. And now, as you can see, if we zoom in a little further, we still have the shadow path in there, and you won't be able to select that just with your mouse if there are other assets underneath there, because it's going to prefer an object over a pathway. So what we can do is we select the pathways on the right hand side, and we're going to try and find the specific pathway that we were looking for on the bed. There we are, and then we can delete it, and there we go. So that way you can easily adjust and change your prefabs or asset sets that you have, that you've created during your map making, and then alter things that are actually quite hard to do otherwise. It's something that I also encountered in my sewers recreate map, where I need to select specific patterns or other things. And because there are multiple overlays on top of each other, it's really hard to delete one specific layer. This is going to make your life much easier. Then again, do remember that this is a beta version, so it's not final. And I do think there are still some things to be optimized. For example, like the prefabs, where they are sorted in which user layer. But that's all something for the future. Now, with that out of the way, we can do the other very interesting thing that I was very enthusiastic about, and that's nudging. So if we select an object, and usually you have to, drag it and try to place it back into position, but sometimes you just want to move it over just 1 or 2 pixels, and you're just going to select the object, and you can just nudge it left or right with your arrow keys on your keyboard, and you can just try and finick around with it a little bit. And the same thing goes for pathways, so you can keep things aligned really easily, and you can just move them over, see if your change looks good, and if you don't like it, you can just move something back. Which is just a very nice feature, and especially for those of you who are used to other software where nudging is an option, I think this is going to be a lifesaver for you. And if we want to adjust some settings, we can just go to the Preference tab, we go to our mods, which are over here, and we can select the Nudge Objects mod. We'll click on the gear, and then we can make any alterations that we want. If you want to be this your WASD, you could do that as well. Do be sure to not have multiple keybinds to a specific key, however. And you can also see your nudge values. So we can turn that up a little bit if we want to. We can do a super nudge or an uber nudge. We're just going to leave that as is. And then we're going to apply this. We're going to reselect an object. I shouldn't turn it. And then holding down your shift key is going to give you a super nudge. And we have the regular nudge at a slightly higher increment than that we had before. And that way you can nudge your way all across the map. You can also just keep it pressed in, and you'll see that it slowly crawls forward. Specifically useful if you want to roleplay a mimic. And you can do the same thing if you have the shift key pressed down. You will do your super nudge. And then you still also, of course, have your uber nudge. And then And then last but not least, we have the random color mod. And here we are in here. I had to reload because I forgot to actually install the mod into Dungeondraft as well. But right now, underneath your objects tools, you have rainbow objects. And that means exactly what you think it means. It really thoroughly randomizes the color of the colorable elements in a specific asset. And you won't be able to replicate the same color twice. I think it's a very fun mod. It's not as useful as other ones may be, but I know for a fact that it was mainly used to create an example of what a mod could do within Dungeondraft. However, this idea, I think that the concept behind this could actually work really well, especially if you could get some specific parameters in which the colors shift and you'd be still able to turn your objects, because right now you can't. So you have to place it and then you're just going to grab it and then adjust anything you might want to, make it bigger, smaller, adjust the rotation and so forth. And that concludes the mods that are currently out there. I went over them quite briefly, but I think that's sufficient for now to give you guys an idea of what is coming and what is being developed. If you're very interested in specifically the modding aspect of this, I do recommend you go to the Discord for Dungeondraft. They have a specific channel which is called Dungeondraft Modding, in which the modders, also the creators of these specific mods, discuss what they're working on and how they're approaching it. There's a lot of teamwork going on. As I understand, I don't have much coding experience myself, but there seems to be quite a lot of conversation on how to approach specific things and how to tackle specific problems. So if you really want to create a mod on your own, go check that out. Ask anybody for help. They'll definitely be able to point you in the right direction. And I'm really excited to see what this is going to bring us in the future as well, because I think modding could add so much to the software. Of course, Megasprout has done a terrific job with the whole software so far already. However, he's just on his own, or I believe his wife might be helping out as well. But even in the best case, it's just the two of them. And this might open up an avenue for much more specific mods, tackling specific issues or areas that currently are rather lacking in Dungeondraft. So I'm very curious to hear what you guys think of the mods and of modding, and what kind of mod would you like to see being created for Dungeondraft. Is there a specific feature that you miss, that you really want to see in there? Do sound off in the comments. And with that, I would like to thank you for watching. If you've enjoyed this video, please do hit the like, favorite and subscribe button. I know I ask this often, but it does really help to get my video out there and spread my channel and make it easier for multiple people to find me. And it really means a lot to me when you guys help me out. You've been terrific over the past year so far. But if you want to help out, you can always hit that like button to let me know you've enjoyed the video. Now, if you want to support me any further, I do have a Patreon page, which I'll link in the description of the video as well. If you're interested in supporting the channel any other way, do check that out. There's some information there. I do have some maps and some character tokens for download there specifically for patrons as some kind of reward. Nevertheless, I would like to thank you guys for watching and hope to see you again in the next video.